What the hell was the point of that?
Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. This is Charles from the channel Books on Stereo, and I'm here with one of my favorite booktubers, Taji. We're back doing our little book club thing that we don't have a title for, and today we're going to be discussing A Lady of Roxbury Manor by Catherine Moon. This is book one, and I believe a duology or a series. But a little bit about this book is it follows our heroine, who basically gets it on with a bunch of different monster men at this manor that caters to monsters. And that's a very bare bones synopsis. We'll give you kind of a little heads up when we go into spoiler territory, but you are free to watch this video throughout the entirety because we will try to keep it as spoiler free as possible for you guys. So first off, Taji, how are you doing today?
I'm good. Thanks for asking. How are you?
I'm doing good. This has been a while since we have sat down and recorded. We had a couple, because of the holidays and everything, we definitely took a little bit of a break.
Mm-hmm.
But I did want to ask you first, what are your overall thoughts on A Lady of Roxbury Manor? Just you can go non-spoilery, spoilery. Just what is your initial reaction after finishing the book?
What the hell was the point of that?
Okay, tell me a little bit more. Tell me a little bit more.
Oh,
You listened to it on audio, right?
I did. I listened to it on
Okay.
audio. I had no problem with the audiobook. I just was like, for me, there was no real depth to the book. There was not a lot of character development. I guess you could say Esther developed in that all she cared about in the beginning was sex and sex. And then towards the end, it was more about family and this harem, family that she created. Mm-hmm. But for me, I didn't find that there was a plot. If you asked me what we were working towards and what the overall structure was, I don't know. I couldn't tell you. I could tell you about each of the characters. I could tell you about each of the monsters. I really liked them. I thought some of them were really sweet. I thought Booker was I loved him. He was amazing. He was a great character. But in terms of what we were working towards, I don't know. I was what was the point of that? So I'm not going to say I didn't like it, but again, it felt like a lot of fluff to me. That's fine. Does that make any sense at all? Or
yeah,
where you fall on that?
Yeah, I think this is where a lot of people's problems with reverse harems can come into play, because one of the things that I love about the romance genre is that understanding why a couple works and why they complement, or it's either they complement, they add something that the other person was missing. In some way they have to make sense, especially when you're doing just not a reverse harem and it's just two people in a relationship. When you do in a reverse harem, each of the guys in their relationship to Esther, they all have to fulfill a different need that our main heroine needs, and none of them really do. It's just they all just give her sex, and that's all that they do. Yes. So you're reading this 12-hour audiobook, and I'm going to cut to the chase. I have the same thoughts as you. Because it was 12 hours of just her getting up with each of the guys at different times. And there was a little subplot that happened probably at around 8 hours into the audiobook with someone trying to take over, I believe that school, the manor, yeah. I should say. But other than that, I completely agree with your thoughts. At the end of the book, I was just that's why I asked you before we started filming. I was like, do we even say spoilers? Because nothing really happened. Nothing really happened in the book.
Other than a bunch of sex.
She meets with each of these guys. There's a little bit of suspense plot that happens. One of the guys may or may not be in trouble of dying or something. And then they finally all get together at the end and become a true reverse harem. And that's I would not have been mad if this was less than 12 hours long. The length is what got me.
This could have been a novella. If it were a novella length, I would have been okay with that, because it could have been 90 pages, quick to the point, and done, and that would have been good enough. But as a full length novel, there was just, and this is okay, so I'm going to get into a little bit of spoilery stuff. You've got 5 characters. You have Mr. Underwood, who was a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde character. So it's Mr. Tanner and then Dr. Underwood. And then you've got Ezra, who is an invisible character that like sort of made a deal with or was cursed by a witch and now he's invisible. You've got August, who is a French vampire, and you've got Eamon, who is a sphinx, and Booker, who is a servant, who is like a marble.
He's a golem, right?
He's a golem. He's a golem,
Yeah.
which is like a marble-like figure. And the biggest thing, and then you have the madam, who is Magdalena, and she sort of is a witch that uses tarot cards to determine matches and mating. So that's how she mixes these monsters who want to seek solace and comfort in women, in human women, right? So they go to the madam, Magdalena, and she uses tarot cards to determine what the best matches will be. And that is how Esther is matched up with these 5 different monsters. And the only thing that really is there is that the monsters are these 5 gentlemen sort of vie for her attentions. And you have some sort of pairing off. So like I think it was Eamon who was the one who was jealous and wanted her all to himself. So he really struggled with it. But you had August and Mr. and Dr. Underwood, who were friends, and they were okay with pairing up, and they were okay with because they had an intimate relationship of their own
in the past,
independent. So they were totally okay with sharing. And then the golem Booker was just like, because I'm a servant, I don't really have any say in anything. And so he's just like, I'll do whatever you tell me to do. And then there was this weird thing where she had to like tether him.
Re-tether. Yeah.
Like, so like there was a lot of things in that sense that was going on. But other than that, there was no real plot, in my opinion. And then, like you said, that third act conflict was about Bershir, who was some Egyptian something god from some other place that was trying to take over.
Just came out of left field.
I was like, who is he and what does he have to do with anything? And I'm so disappointed because I was so excited. And this is when TikTok does not live up to the hype. Because TikTok played up this book like it was so good, so amazing. And there's like all this conversation around these reverse harems that they're like really great and have, all of this spice. And there's the only reverse harem that I have read thus far, and I haven't read many, that has worked for me that I really liked was The Den of Vipers. Outside of The Den of Vipers, and there was a specific, because that was more of a dark romance reverse harem tied into a mafia theme. Any of the other reverse harems that I've read, it just, because those characters are not all connected and they're not relevant to one another. Now, let me say the other one that did work, and Jen from the Book Refuge pointed this out to me, is Kay Webster's torn.
The Bound Duet.
The Bound Duet. Now that one. Like it's my favorite book. I absolutely love that one. But outside of that, I'm not feeling any of them. And I don't know if it's just me or if because there's not enough connection between the characters and they're not bringing enough to the table to make, a menage fine, but like a reverse harem to have 5-6 people in the mix, I'm not feeling it.
Yeah. One of the things I can give the book credit for, one of the things I was worried about is how is she going to differentiate each of the different guys, and at no point in the book I was like, no, like who's this character, who's this guy, who's this character, like even like the fact that we can remember their names and what type of monster they are, I had to give the book kudos for that.
True.
But it just goes back to what you're saying, it's the male characters in relationships in relation to the female character. It could have been any monster character in that manner that could have like hooked up with her. So like you're just going through the book and she just gets with each of the different guys at different times. And then like it's okay for it's okay for I was into the book for like I would say up to 2/3.
Me too.
But then I was just like, okay, what are we doing right now? We're just constantly going from steamy scene to steamy scene, and then okay, now I need some third act conflict to drive the plot home and get our characters to the happily ever after. You're never convinced of why she needs each one of these men and why she can't live without each one of these men. Because she could just get another golem or another sphinx or another invisible person.
Yeah, to your point, like I don't see why it has to be Eamon specifically or why it has to be Booker specifically. She could have like inserted any guy into that mix that would have fulfilled that desire for her just to be intimate. And it felt like this was erotica as opposed to, any other kind of like, a reverse
Mhm.
harem or fantasy romance or whatever. Like it just, like you said, it was one steamy, sexy scene to the point where I was desensitized by like three-quarters of the book. I was like, oh, here we go again. Like it's just one more thing, and I love
Yeah.
like, bring on the smut. Like I want it thick,
Uh,
but in this sense, and I think that I need to have books that have an arc and a character development and characters that are working for their happy ever after, that they are starting at
mhm.
one point and they have to like sort of recognize the error of their ways or see why they've sort of going wrong and learn from those mistakes and then evolve. And I'm not talking about, I don't
Mhm.
want a bunch of groveling and but I want learning and I want development. And there was none of that in this, in my opinion. Now you could say that because this is it, the book takes place in, early, what, like 18th century, something,
1800s, yeah, something, yeah.
1900, Victorian London or whatever in England. And so like this
Hmm.
is, very new agey or, in the thinking in terms of how they're behaving and how her view about sex and being very open and, being very hedonistic. And I get that and I see that, but I just wanted more to go into the storyline and to the development of the story to
Hmm.
make it richer.
Yeah, I completely agree because Esther's main what drives her throughout the whole entire novel is she just wants to get laid by as many different monsters as possible.
Hmm.
And that is fine in and of itself, but for a 12-hour audiobook where that's all she does and then somehow that's what I felt like where Catherine Moon kind of realized where she was like, uh-oh, I just been doing steamy scene after steamy scene. Now I have to find a way to tie these all these men together to make it an actual harem. And
Hmm.
that's where I felt like she failed in this book.
Hmm.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Because like erotica does not necessarily mean just steamy scene after steamy scene after steamy scene. You still have a plot, you still have character growth, and you still have character development, but the way a lot of those things develop is through the sexy times.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like Tiffany Rice, and I don't know if you read, I think it's The Red by Tiffany Rice,
It's on my shelf. I have it.
but
Yeah.
that's erotica, and that one has like character growth and plot. But the way sex is used in that book, it moves the plot forward
Right.
instead of this book. That's what I said when I saw it 12 hours. I'm like, why is this book 12 hours long when it has no plot? The
Yeah.
characters were the characters were great. I liked all the characters.
I did too. I did
I
too.
like them. I still remember the names. I like how they interacted with our heroine. I thought the dynamics between her and each of the men, each of the male characters was really nicely done. But like I said, it was that plot. I think
Yeah.
going back to TikTok, I think TikTok has really kind of changed. So like authors will promote the spicier parts of the book,
Mm.
and it's very rare when a book actually delivers not just those spicy parts, but an actual good story. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
like TikTok is quick, so of course the author's gonna put like their steamiest scene, and that steamy scene might not even happen to like 60% of the way through the book, and you're
Hmm.
like, "What have I done? I've been bamboozled. I've been
Totally.
tricked
Totally.
once again." And I
Totally.
think that's this book. I think you have to. That's why I can't figure out a way how to rate this book because if I pull my mind out and just see it as pure monster smut,
Yeah.
it's a 5.
Right. Right.
But if I factor in like, is it a good story and good characters, and would I recommend this to people? Hell no.
Yeah. I feel
Like
exactly the
that's the part I feel. I'm like, after all the hype that Catherine Moon has been getting, I give her one thing: she can like differentiate her characters. That's a good thing.
Yes.
But like, if all her books are like this, where it's just steamy scene after steamy scene with a different guy, then I need a little bit more plot to hang on, especially if you're gonna make me listen to a 12-hour audiobook.
Yeah, and a couple things that she did. So let's talk about characters. So there
Mm-hmm.
were a couple of characters that she introduced very early on that I thought had potential to go somewhere, and she never did anything with them. Like the human guy, I think his name was Jacob, who she ran into when she was at the park bench when she was dreaming.
Oh yeah.
So
Hmm.
like she could have really gone somewhere with that. He could have been a nemesis. He could have been an arch nemesis. He could have been like, tried to break in because clearly he wanted to be connected to the manor and somehow because he knew because they told the villagers that the manor was a finishing school, but he sort of
Yeah.
suspected that it was a
He knew
brothel.
something was going up.
Something was going on, but she like introduced him, and I was like, well, what happened to Jacob? Like there was nothing. She just never did anything with him. Or there was the shopkeeper guy that that Mary was
Yeah.
interested in when she went shoe shopping with her. He was like, they made a big deal of him, and then nothing happened with him. So there's a lot of things that she could have done. It almost felt like she ran out of time, and she had all this like sexy scenes, and she just put them together, and then like you said, she ran out of time, so she had to thread them real quick, and then like she had to meet her deadline, and she turned it in. The other thing I think that she did really well is the cover of this book is stunning, right? The cover of this is beautiful, right? The red pops with the blacks and the grays, and so it really like you were just like, oh my gosh, this is going to be like atmospheric and spooky and sexy and vampiric, and like and it like makes you
Hmm.
think of like when I see this cover, like it makes me think like I want to read it during like October, November, like that time, and then I go and I get into it and I'm like, you didn't deliver in the way you sold me on a bale of goods, and I like totally bought the hook, line, and sinker, and I got something different than what's on this cover.
No, like that's so funny that like one of your positives is how pretty the cover is. Like that's like when like you're just picking for positives. When you go to like the cover is pretty though. But I think I really like what you said about some of the things she didn't take characters far enough. I would have loved to have seen more about Dr. Underwood and August's friendship instead of like that one brief kind of oddly weird theater exhibition scene that they had.
The tentacle
Which
monster, like with
I was like, what the? I was like, what is happening right now? Like, I would love to see more of that. And one of the other girls, I can't remember her name, but she was the one who basically said like she was doing it for money, so she can save out and get out and like go marry someone else. I was like, that would be interesting to see them dive into a little bit more. I think the problem is she needed to develop Esther. It's fine wanting to like just bang your way through a bunch of different because that's literally what she did. She didn't actually choose any of these men really. She was just like, "Oh, you're interesting. I haven't been with a Sphinx,"
yeah,
and that's pretty much her whole mantra. How she meets all the different guys, and it's
yeah,
really the guys that are like, "You're mine, you're mine," and then she's like, "Okay,
yeah.
just keep on, just keep on. I'm just here to like
You
get my
appear,
rocks off and just have fun."
you show yourself to me, and we're gonna like hook up like with Ezra. This is an invisible dude that like crept in, didn't have a membership, snuck into your room. You can't see him. You just feel fingers on you, and you're like,
And
I'm
she's
all
just like, okay, which is like, that's fine. But like, I think there were a ton of easy things that she could have done to make this a better book. Like she could have done POVs from all the different guys to kind of break up Esther's POVs. She could have introduced that weird spirit dude like earlier on in the book and made them more like ominous, so you can follow that thread throughout the novel. Like there were like that's the only thing I hate when I see like this book is such an easy fix. Like
it
there's
is.
so many things you could just like add here and add here to really make it a good story, but I guess people just want a bunch of random scenes of her getting it on. And even for when you said like you were getting bored of it, I was getting bored of it too. I was just waiting. I'm like, okay, let's see if she's gonna come with one of the tops, like the first sex scene, like a couple pages ago. Like, let me see if she can do something interesting. I'm like, oh, okay,
Yeah, yeah,
okay,
yeah.
it's just the same. So
So
even by the end, I was just kind of really checked out. I was like, I don't
I
really
was
care. Aemon can die, all these dudes could die, and she would just go back to the manor and get another set. That's literally what she would do.
pretty
But I
much.
am curious to see what the second book holds because they did say like maybe we'll do different pairings, so you could have I don't know what would you call it, a male reverse harem with all dudes, but they all want one guy.
That's a harem,
A harem, really?
right? Right? Because well,
I
if
thought
it's
reverse harem is like one girl, multiple guys, and a harem is one guy, multiple girls.
girls, what are you talking about?
So what if it's one guy and five other guys want that one guy or one girl, and that one and five other girls want that other girl? Like a
Oh,
same-sex harem.
same-sex harem, a same-sex harem. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, that's interesting. I don't know. Let's see what we get, like what we come up with from there. It would be interesting to see, but when I did look up the second book to see what direction she was going, like it wasn't even usually an author will lead you. Like I thought that the second book was going to be like Magdalena's story, for example.
Yeah, like someone you
And
met.
like develop, yeah, somebody that we already met. And when I read those characters that it looks like are going to be in the next book, I was like, who is that? Like, did I miss them? That didn't even seem connected. So, I loved what you just said, and I didn't even think about that. Like, an easy fix would have been, it would have made it so much better if we would have had the POVs of the guys to see, because the characters were really good. Like you said, I really like the characters, and they're lovable. Each one of the guys are lovable in their own way.
Mm-hmm.
I really did like them, but it's just she just didn't do enough with it. And maybe, like you said, the POVs would have done that. And then
Yeah.
at the very end, and this is a total spoiler, so like if you don't want to hear it, sorry. But like
Taji, there's nothing to spoil about this book.
I'm just for the purists out there, just because I tend to be a purist too. So, but I'm just saying, like the
Mm-hmm.
whole like introduction of like in the last paragraph on the last page, it's like, so let's have a conversation about you becoming a vampire. I was like, how is that even going to work? Like what? Like what? You going to bring that in at the like not even at the third hour? This is the fourth hour in the 90th seconds, like right before we end. Now I'm mad at you. Now I was forgiving before. Now I'm upset. Now you're talking about let's be a vampire. Now how's that going to relate to everybody else? That takes away their choices. This is supposed to be a commune. We're supposed to be working together. Oh my god.
I was like, so you got mad. I didn't care at that point.
You were just like checking them. You were like, they said that. You were like, I was just like, I was on 5 speed. I was on
I
five
was out
speed.
like deuces. I was like deuces. I was like, I'm out.
Oh my god, trying to finish this up. This was yes. I'm not gonna say it was, and I felt like exactly the way that you did. I was like, how do I want to rate this? Like if I were going to rate it for me, if I were rating it on Monster Smut, I would put it at a 4 for me.
Yeah, that's
And
fair.
then if I'm rating it as a book, I'm like, because I like the characters. I kind of am like a 3. Like I give it like a markdown because there's no connection. I'm not going to give her a 2, and I'm not going to be as ruthless and give her a 1. So I'm like 3, like a 3 is kind of where I'm falling in terms of overall, more or less. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't know. Like this is like I don't think I've actually rated it yet on Goodreads because I don't know how to rate it. Like because like just the same reasons that you said. If I just base this on the Steam, it's like a 4 or 5 because there were
Mm-hmm,
some really good scenes in the
mm-hmm,
book.
mm-hmm.
But then if I judge it as like a complete, look at it as a complete picture, as a book as a whole, and whether or not I would recommend it, that's where my rating changes. Like I can go from 1 to 3, depending on like how harsh I am in my critique,
Mm-hmm.
because once without those steam scenes, without factoring those steamy scenes, there really isn't enough to really grapple on for this book.
Yeah.
It really is just like so I'm like it's on audio. I was like, this is a waste of audio right now. I'm sorry, Catherine Moon. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
because if you just want that one thing, even that one thing for 12 hours gets old and gets very repetitive.
Mm-hmm.
So like I don't know how to rate this. Like I'm leaning towards like a 2.
Mm.
That's where I'm thinking where it's gonna land because I would not continue on in this series.
No, I don't.
Someone will have to do like a huge pitch,
Yeah,
or for reading her other books,
I
because I
agree.
like your Steam, but I think like you said earlier, you want character growth, you want plot development, and you want it mixed with like good Steam. And there's
Yeah.
a ton of authors out there who are doing that.
Yes.
And I think this is a book that will be popular for a moment, but then as time goes on, it's going to be like, why do we like this book?
It's not going to stand
Just
the test
because it's
of time.
steamy? It's not. It really isn't. So
And to your
I'm
point,
glad I read it, but
yeah,
I'm kind of disappointed.
I agree. I agree wholeheartedly. And if you want steam and you want that level of like monster steam, there are plenty of other authors out there that are doing novella lengths that you can hit it and quit it. Like get, you know what I mean? Like read it quick,
Hmm.
get that fix, and then move on to something else, you know? So I am right there with you. I am not going to continue on with the series. And I probably would not give her another chance as an author for me unless somebody really upsold her and whatever the book is, and they're like, and there are people that I trust that are part of my like reading groups, you know, that
Hmm.
would say like, this is definitely up your alley, this is something, you know, because our TBRs are like never ending, right? The minute you get stuff off it,
Yeah.
you add other stuff to it, and so there's so much other things to be reading that I know I really want to, that I'm going to enjoy, that I don't want to waste my time with something that I
Hmm.
walk away going like, well, what the heck was the purpose of that? And that's sort of how I felt overall about that. And I feel bad because I know that there are some people who really enjoyed it, and that's perfect and great. I love that you did, but it's just not for me.
Such a great discussion. I think hopefully people don't get too mad at us because these are just our opinions. If you love the book, I'm so happy that you love the book.
Exactly.
But I think it's just with reverse harems, they're very touch and go for a lot of readers. Like, don't take our opinions with a grain of salt, you guys. But before I wrap us up, Taji, do you have anything else you want to say before I
You
close
know,
this out?
yeah, you know, the other thing I was going to say, this reminded me of, and this is why I know that probably, like I said, reverse harems are probably not for me, but it reminds me of, remember the queen takes rook, queen takes pawn, queen, the vampire reverse
Oh, that
harem.
that like 8 book series that you binged.
This is that. This is that because it's a monster that she takes on all the monsters in the vampire world. And it is very similar. This is probably better in the sense that she develops the characters better. And like I said,
Hmm.
you know, and after we've already said that there's not enough character development, but I like the characters in this book better. But it's a very similar genre in that it's, you know, the one female that has a harem of monsters that she is all into, and they're like, have like the tentacle monster, and you have like the sphinx type character. So if you like this, then you probably should go and read that. I don't remember who that author was that wrote that. Do you remember the?
I don't know, but I know you have a video. You guys, she has a video like reviewing all the books,
Yes,
and
yes. So
I
then
think
for
that
those,
one is a little bit different because she adds more people as the book goes on, right?
keeps never ending, keeps adding more and more people to the harem. So until she's got like 10 harem, I think it was like 8 harem members at the end, and the series is still ongoing. So I say that to say that I know that there is a market out there for people who do enjoy this. So if you liked this book, or if you've read that Queen Takes Rook and you really like that, then you will like this as well, because it's all sort of in the same vein and written similarly. So that's a little recommendation for you to show that we are all like, you know, accepting of all different types of kinks, and there's no shame here.
But thank you again so much for Taji for coming back on my channel. I enjoyed this discussion. If you guys want to find and follow Taji on all our social media links, I'll link those down in the description box down below. But thank you guys again so much for watching, and we'll be back with another book. Stay tuned to see what it is. Bye, everyone.